You are a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout, to amplify and transcend, slay the ego, raise the humanity. That's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone.
Hello. LinkedIn, YouTube. Welcome to the High Vibe Zone. Oh my gosh. I hope y'all like that intro. It's kind of a new thing. What do you think of the intro, Tony?
I think it's dope. I was over here like, I love it. I love it. I like the Twilight Zone, High Vibe Zone kind of blend. I think it's amazing. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Did you grow up watching the Twilight Zone?
I didn't. My mom used to watch it all the time, and I would see it, and it's like, I don't want to watch that stuff. It's in black and white. But I'm starting to notice now, right? All the good stuff is in black and white.
It's one of my favorite shows to watch. And in fact, I like the Twilight Zone, Star Trek,
Ooh.
And a little bit of Star Wars. You know,
that's cool.
Yeah.
The stuff we don't know about our friends. I love it.
The things we don't know. We should do an episode on that. Well, listen, welcome y'all. If you're watching live, welcome. And even if you're watching recorded, welcome to the High Vibe Zone. I'm your host, Sharice Fons, and I'm with my amazing guest, Tony Taylor.
Hey.
We are every first Wednesday. We reserve this time for us. We've been doing this for a while now, and we come at you with some good conversations and some good insights. So we're going to get this thing started. If you are watching live, go ahead and just let us know where you're coming from, your name, what you're grateful for. Drop it in the comments. Let us highlight that. Every comment equals good vibes. And either way, we're still going to have those high good vibes here. So welcome to the High Vibe Zone. Tony, what are you grateful for this morning?
Man, I'm grateful to be sharing space with you. That's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that you put me on this assignment, right? You gave me some good homework. I'm grateful. It was good homework, man. I got a lot of stuff, in my soul right now because of the homework assignment you gave me.
Nice. Well, I received that gratitude, and I am grateful to be talking with you as well. This is going to be, I feel like you just have such great insights, and I cannot wait to dive into this. So I'm grateful that you have decided to spend your time with me here in the High Vibe Zone. So,
thank you. Don't make me cry today. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, you're welcome. So let's kick this off with our encouraging card of the day, and we'll just start there. I have no idea what the words are going to be, what the cards have in store. But we're going to definitely kick it off. Oh, Thoth. Can't watch long, but always feeling the good vibes. You put off trees, keep the vibes alive. Oh man, thank you for watching. Thoth is actually my neighbor, and very interesting. About a year, 2 years, I don't even know how long it's been, but Thoth put out a thing on Nextdoor, and he basically helped to get a lot of our community together. So
that's cool.
He helps, he did a beer crawl, a wine stroll, and he's a really good, really amazing human. So excited to have you in the High Vibe Zone, Thoth. Welcome.
That's amazing. I'm grateful that you got amazing neighbors. Not everybody get to have amazing neighbors such as Thoth. That's cool.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is a couple of my neighbors are actually on LinkedIn. So I'm not living like this double life, y'all. Like this is One is like right next to me, and another one is Thoth, and another one are down the street. So they, it's not like a switcheroo.
Ooh, I love that.
All
love
right.
that. I'll be outside, and because I'm not connected with none of my neighbors, I don't think. But I'll be outside. I'll be recording a video, and one of my neighbors are, "You on that LinkedIn again?" Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, got it. Hey, got it. We got to build community, y'all. We got to get that. We got to get that back. So, okay, the card that was pulled. I don't know how this ties in, but daydreaming is preparation. Well, actually, now that I say it out loud, my camera's out of focus.
You good? You got one of those cameras I got, the autofocus. It seems like everything, everything cool. that every card you pull every month has like some connection, like even if it's not our topic, but someplace like in our lives. And for me, go ahead. I'm just talking, man. It's your show. All right. Yeah. I was gonna say, for me, I'm doing right after I get done talking with you, I'm doing a thing with they're called the Dream Wakers. They're called the Dream Wakers, and what they do is they take speakers like myself, and they put them in front of groups that need to hear a speaker for the day, and kind of like awaken their dreams. So I think it's amazing that you pull that card, because I instantly think about it's okay to dream, right? It's okay to dream. It's okay to live, but you always got to wake up and fulfill that dream. Like dreams are like what everything is made of. If it wasn't for a dream, we wouldn't have planes. If it wasn't for a dream, we wouldn't have automobiles. Like it's all about dreaming.
Yeah. That's dope. I like how you and you're right. It doesn't, the card doesn't just happen. It like correlates with something, and I really do like that. When are you doing that? When are you doing that speaking?
I think it's at 9. Yeah. It's directly after an hour when we start. So I might get off in like 45 minutes or something like that.
Wow. Yeah. So today, daydreaming is preparation.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I like how what I immediately kind of go to is that famous dream speech by Martin Luther King, right? He had that dream, and before he had that dream, he had to have some type of vision or sitting there thinking. When I think about daydreaming, you're like sitting there thinking and contemplating of all of these possibilities. And in fact, the other day I was walking back and I was just thinking about how they talk about we use 10% of our brains.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that's because when we were presented with a problem or an issue or something, we tend to go to one or two solutions. Like our brains don't like to use energy, so they just go to one or two solutions. But what if that's not how God in the universe works, though? There's like millions of solutions, and there are no coincidences in any of this. So what if the 10% that we're using is the most efficient or logical, but there are so many other possibilities out there? And to daydream, I can just remember as a kid, I'd be like, I want to be this, I want to do that. And that is the starting of creating a vision. Someone had to daydream about being up in the sky to create a plane. Yeah. Someone had to daydream, man, I wish I could just not use a candle and just turn on something that just illuminates. Right. So you had to daydream.
Yeah.
And that's preparing your vision. Because once you take that out of your head and you put it out there, like that's the vision that you're creating, and other people can follow that and other people can help you with that. So I like daydreaming as preparation.
Yeah, no, I love it too. A lot of people say, "Oh man, quit daydreaming." And I like to tell my kids, "Keep daydreaming. Don't stop dreaming." Yeah.
Don't stop daydreaming. Take those daydreams though and write them down. I like to say, what was the phrase? It's like, speak it out loud to give it a name, write it down and make it plain. Essentially, it's like once you name something, and you write it down, you make it plain, you make it very easy for you to, not even easy, but just you make it easier to conceptualize and solve and different things like that. So
yeah, no, it's really a connection. It's a connection. I remember being in school and taking notes, because I would always take a copious amount of notes, right? I would take notes, and I would notice the note cards. I wouldn't have to even use the note cards to study, because just from me writing it, it was in my brain. And that's why I keep this binder whenever I'm daydreaming, because I daydream often. I keep this binder and the things that I dream about it, things that keep me, I write it down every single time. Yeah.
Nice. I dig it. Okay. Well, shall we jump into it? We're talking about High on the Hog, y'all. Today we're talking about High on the Hog. So why are we talking about High on the Hog? In fact, this whole month, every week we're dedicated to talking about High on the Hog. It's a Netflix docu-series, 4 episodes, and it talks about how African cuisine influenced, or Africa influenced, the food that we have here in America. So it's a beautiful documentary. It comes from a book that Jessica B. Harris wrote called High on the Hog. And I've watched this so many times. And I just
watched it more than once?
I've watched it like 5 times.
Ooh, okay.
And I thought it was a beautiful way, because there is a lot of pain in some of the stories that are being told on High on the Hog. Yeah. But the way that they balance it, I think, is a really beautiful thing, especially as there is a lot of talk. I mean, you and I, Tony, have talked about this, just the things that we're seeing in the world, the stuff that happened after George Floyd, and all of these conversations that are happening. While it's great to end racism, I'm all for that. I think the language behind how we do it isn't as balanced and isn't coming from a place of high vibe. And so it's causing a lot of discord with being able to solve it. Yeah. And I love how this documentary paints the full picture of our history, which is interesting. I want to talk about that for a minute. Our history, depending on where you're from, even though we might be the same skin tone, I think we talked about this a little bit, is I have a Caribbean side, Jamaican side. History is completely different from the African side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and my side is Nigerian.
Right. Yeah. So, and depending on where you are in Africa, which I'm going to talk about a little African facts in a bit. I think that's really cool. But
I love it.
Why we are here is because we really wanted to appreciate the balance from High on the Hog. So if you have not watched it, I encourage you to watch it. It really provides a lot of history, a lot of healing, a lot of avenue for healing around the African history and kind of what we're seeing today in America, which is really fascinating. So without further ado, I want to hit you with some African facts, some facts about Africa. Where's my notes? Okay. So I didn't know this until I was talking to somebody, actually a neighbor. So if you're watching, shout out to my neighbor. She basically told me that, go drink your juice. We have a special guest here.
Is that Baby Mikey?
It is Baby Mikey.
What's up, Baby Mikey?
Baby Mikey in the high vibe zone, y'all.
Oh, man. He a big boy now.
He is. He's so big. He's hanging out. I'll send him out when he's ready. But one of the things that I didn't realize was Africa is actually bigger than it is depicted on a map. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. I did know that. And that's one thing that I was looking at. Like, was that purposely done? That's something that I didn't kind of like dive into, like the history of it or how and why. But even on the map, Africa is huge, but Africa is ginormous.
Ginormous. Yeah. Let me tell you how ginormous it is. It can fit the US, China, India, Japan, Mexico, UK, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, Belgium, Japan. It is 1.77 times bigger than Russia.
Wow. Wow. And that just goes to show you, I remember being a kid and looking at Africa, right? Looking at Africa and thinking that each individual border is like a state, like how we are, right? And I'm like, no, like somebody told me, no, man, those are countries in Africa, not states, but individual countries in Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's fascinating. And I did, yes, sweetie. No. Please close the door.
You said
Just to also.
You said that's so nice. I'll be telling my kids,
I'm in the
you
middle
know
of
I'm
a live.
live.
I'm like on live thing. You guys got to go. No. Yes, go hang out. No. They're all invited. Just so everybody knows, my
They're
husband.
protesting.
I'm solo today, so trying to do this live with kids is a little challenging. Go ahead and close the door, please. What else is interesting? How many languages do you think we speak on average in the United States? Like, how many languages do you think that there are?
I don't know. Maybe I think I read something, maybe like 30 or something like that, like well known, or
okay.
I might be way off, huh?
It's okay. How many do you think are in Africa? Spoken in Africa?
Probably hundreds, right?
Yeah. I did a little Googling. The US on average about 350 languages. And in Africa around 2,000.
Wow. 2,000. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I just think back, a lot of my friends that I've known kind of like growing up and being an adult, they I'll say, how many languages do you, well, they ask me, how many languages do you speak? And I just say, one. I speak one language, and they'll be like, no, man, I speak about 6 or 7. I remember being a kid saying, there's 6 or 7 languages. Oh man. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, the most common language is Swahili.
Yeah.
In Africa. Which I thought was really cool that there were that many languages. And the kind of getting to the first episode in Benin, they spoke a lot of French.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really fascinating and cool. I had no idea. I mean, growing up, I would have never thought that was a language in Africa, but due to all the shifting and the, everything that has happened, it's one of the 11 languages that are spoken there. I think also Portuguese is one of them as well.
Yeah, and French is such a beautiful language to me. I was watching the episode and I was just mesmerized by their dialect, and like it was like the dialect, it was the food, it was there certain cultures that they had. I was just like caught like deep when we get done today and later on, I might finish watching. I might binge watch the rest of the season.
Yeah.
That's how good it is.
It's really good, y'all. You should definitely watch it. Okay. So I gave you homework to watch this. Yeah. And did you watch it with your wife?
Yeah, we watched it together. Shout
out to Mrs. Taylor.
Hey, yeah, she's probably watching us right now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we watched it together, and I noticed that we kind of went on a roller coaster, right? A roller coaster of emotions. At first, for me, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, "Ooh, that looked good. That looked good." And then I'm like, "Oh," and then I'm like, "Oh, that's beautiful." And then I'm sobbing. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was a mix. It was a mixed bag for me last night. Definitely a mixed bag. Yeah.
Yeah. What stood out to you the most in terms of well, let me lay the foundation of the first episode for our roots on High on the Hog. Essentially, Stephen, who's the host of this, goes to Africa, visits Africa. I think he said for the first time.
Yeah.
And he starts in Benin, which if you recall watching Black Panther, I think they talk about Benin in Black Panther, which I think is really interesting as well. But he starts in Benin and he learns about the roots of the food, rice coming from Africa, okra coming from Africa.
Yeah.
The difference between a yam and a sweet potato.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, pretty big. And he goes through this entire series touching on different foods, but then also different parts in Africa that have different types of history. And so they get into the origins or just the beginning component of slavery as well, which really does paint a picture of what was going on. And that part we'll talk about in a second. But for you and your wife, as you're watching this together, what was something that, stood out? What are on your notes in terms of something that you gathered from Hayam Hog?
So one of the first things that I noticed was the actual host, right? The actual host of it. And I noticed that he didn't come into it with any like biases. He came into that situation willing to learn.
Right.
Like, and you could tell he deeply wanted a greater understanding. He wanted to know more about where his people came from. And I resonated with him because I saw myself in him. I just see him going through these different changes and going through these different villages and learning, and just him just going on that emotional roller coaster journey himself, the same thing that us, the viewers, went through. And that's what jumped out to me was his approach, him being immersed in it. And then because of his willingness to learn, them embracing him. I mean, he got embraced like no other. It's definitely not like how I envision, somebody like us coming from America going there. We've always been told that we're not welcome there. We've been told, I've heard that, we've always been told that there's this divide, but I didn't see it. They were like, brother, welcome home. And they treated him as such. They literally broke bread together. So I love that was the first thing that I noticed was his interaction with the people of Africa. Yeah.
Do you feel like kind of I love what you said in terms of that's the first thing that really stuck out to you is just his openness and leaving his bias, because he grew up in America. So, and he grew up in the South, nevertheless. So there is bias there, but he did go into that, like you said, with no bias. And my question is, do you feel like that is common in the Black culture or just in cultures in general for people to do that if they're going into a space to learn?
No, I don't think it's common, because I think, we take our biases into every situation we go into. It's up to us to check our biases. And I'm pretty sure that, him reading and, getting sometimes third person knowledge on what Africa is, I'm pretty sure, he had certain, biases, but he checked them. Yeah. He checked them. And that's one thing that I learned from that. It was almost like a reminder, you go into a situation, make sure you check your biases so that you can have an actual full understanding of what it is to be observed. Because if you have those biases and those biases are stronger than what reality is, right? If they're stronger than what reality really is, like, you're not going to get the information needed so that you can form an intelligent opinion about the people, about their culture, about his history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big. What other thing that I would add to that too is, like, there's a lot of ego that comes with bias.
Yeah.
And I think when you're in a place, when you recognize that you have come to a place of your origin, it has to be tremendously humbling. And the ego and humility don't mix. It's like oil and water. And so I think that also helps with that bias. Yeah. This is totally a sidebar, but I was reading this book And it was this guy who, very wealthy guy, he's like, I dress homeless every once in a while to keep myself humble. And I just thought, what if leaders did that? What if leaders, or just, people that are practicing or preaching some of this work around humanity, what if people dressed homeless or different than their normal and gained some humility based off of the environment they were in?
Yeah, just to pick up a understanding. It's almost like how when he was walking through the village and he had this sense, and I almost was my envy came out. My envy, I was very envious of him because he made the statement. He says, I can feel it through my feet.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about leaders, getting out of their comfort zone, and not only getting out of their comfort zone, they're peeling layers off. And one thing that I saw with him was he peeled a layer off. He was walking through that village with his bare feet, and he was like, he just said, I just feel so connected. I just feel so connected. And so that's what I thought about when you said, leaders, and you was talking about the guy that dressed homeless is almost, they're in the same situation, not necessarily homeless, but different. And in order for him to grasp it all, like, he had to peel that layer back.
Yeah. Because you and I both have been homeless. It's a very humbling experience. It's a very humbling experience.
Yeah. It's humbling and uplifting at the same time at certain points. I know for me it was definitely uplifting. Definitely some stuff got put into my soul that I don't think I never would have been able to receive before.
I love that. I agree. I say there's this line that I would say is, not getting government housing was one of the best things that happened to me, or the best thing that never happened to me. But then being homeless was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It changed my entire perspective.
That's funny you say that, because that was what it was for me, right? I made a choice. I made a choice to sleep in my car other than taking other routes, because I was afraid that I would get used to that. I felt like I didn't have enough discipline to pull myself out of that. If I went through that circumstance, it was a short while, but it felt like I got a lifetime of game just from sleeping in my car, turning it on, warming it up, right? Just to stay warm, and then turning it back off. And, oh man. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. Shout out to Felicia. Hey girl. Hey, definitely. Felicia's going to be on one of the High Vibe Zone episodes. I still have to connect with you on that one, but I want Felicia in there in the High Vibe Zone. We're going to be talking about, again, high on the hog conversation. We'll see what episode Felicia takes, but yeah, so aloha to you as well.
I love it.
I want to jump to something that really stuck out to me personally in the first episode, when he was in, let's see if I can get the Albany, which was essentially that road that he was that the slaves took, the enslaved took to go onto the ships. And there was a man from the village, and he was talking about how it used to be a kingdom, and it was a bunch of Amazon warrior women, very similar to Black Panther.
All women, yeah.
All women, warrior women running it, doing their thing. And then the kingdom had fallen. The little history, and it was there was some outside influences to why the kingdom fell, but I don't have all of the details at this point. But essentially what he was saying was the Europeans needed people power, needed manpower. And so the worst thing that the Africans did was enslave their own people.
Right.
And that is a part of history that I grew up never knowing. And that is actually a really key part in history that anyone that is working on healing or trying to understand our humanity a little bit better, I find that part to be almost one of the most important components to this journey.
Why is that?
Because we started it first.
Yeah.
And slavery has been going on for a long time. But the narrative that we had was it was all these other people's faults.
Right.
We sold our own people.
Yeah.
We were the ones that put our people in chains and walked them through.
Yeah.
And we wanted, and how he described this journey for them, it was because we were required, our skills were required to do these things. And I figured that there was some type of exchange in that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that part of our history is told. And I feel like, it kind of reminds me of this, Bob Marley quote, none but ourselves can free our minds. And right now, as we look at our lives, we have modern day slavery now. We have debt, alcohol, food addiction, different things like that. Oh, yeah. And I really do believe that, if we could have started something that big, we could also end something that, as well. And I felt like that origin component was so important. And yes, other players came into the game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't other players that were walking our people down that road.
Right.
It was us.
Yeah, because we had the direction.
We had the direction.
We knew the land. We knew the people.
We did. We knew how to do all of these things. And it just makes me wonder.
We never talk about that. And I think that's important. And I think that is on purpose.
I think that's a key component into ending what we're seeing and I'm not saying that other ethnicities haven't had a role in this. I mean, I think about 1776 with Carl Linnaeus creating the 4, what we know as races.
Right.
We're one race. If Star Trek, y'all, we're one race. We're humans.
Yeah.
There's ethnicities. So the 4 ethnicities he created was African, European, Asian, and Native American, I believe.
Yeah.
And so, the divisiveness, we were divided to be able to even do that to our own people.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that we talk about that enough. And I think it's in those places where we can start to find healing. Something else, and you might think this is like weird, but I'm going to just share this.
I doubt if I think it's weird.
Well, remember the water village?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the
how can I not forget? Yeah.
So y'all have to watch this. There's a water village. One of the main religions or spiritualities there was voodoo.
Yes.
Okay. And if you and voodoo has changed over depending on where origins. So the voodoo there is different than the voodoo in New Orleans or the voodoo, like there's different components there. But ultimately, it's not something you want to go against. It's not, it's very deeply like, I think about Princess and the Frog and the Shadow Man and the voodoo, not something you want to play around with, right?
Yeah.
And I wondered, as I was watching this is my honest thought, Tony. What if what we are experiencing is possibly some type of repercussion for what we did to our people in Africa?
Damn.
What if? I mean, you have to think about it. Like they had women, children, men chained up and taken to this place that not very many people survived. And I just was, as I was thinking about that, I don't know. And I agree. It's not something that we talk about often. And as I look at the current state of the world today, where racism is really shown or presented as a black and white issue, which it's not, it's a humanity issue. It's been going on for many, many years.
Right.
I just wonder if the healing is in the pause and reflecting and looking at the entire process and saying, very similar to what Stephen did when he was on those, I forgot the place of what it was called. I wrote it down. I can't even pronounce it. But he's like, I'm looking at both sides of the story, and I choose to look at the story that is empowering.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're missing. We're missing, yes, all of these things happen to us. All of these things have happened to our humanity. But in order for us to solve what's going on, in order for us to get back to just this grounded place, we need to find a place of healing. And we can't find that if we keep regurgitating the same story or not finding healing in what the story was. So I don't know.
You can't heal if you don't know what's hurting you.
You can't. And if we think it, and what's so fascinating about what you just said is we think it's somebody else.
Yeah. Definitely they were exploited, but
yes,
the pain started with them. With them. Yeah. And I'm glad that they said that. I'm glad that they said that in that documentary, because I've only heard it in a couple other places, the places where I'm like, yeah, they're going to give me the raw truth. So I was surprised that something on Netflix, which Netflix has been killing it, with these kind of documentaries. I mean, they've been killing it, like straight down to I think that was the one, the 13th. I was surprised about how good that was.
The amendment with Will Smith.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that one too. Yeah. No, definitely. I was really surprised that they talked about that, and I thought that it was really important. Really important.
I feel like it's really important to look at the history before we start to make up our minds about how we go forth with this. And I found that learning the roots of a part of American history, which is so key because we're here in America and seem to be fighting this this battle. It's like, what if there was a pause to stand on something that really connected us? Something as simple as food, something as simple as untold history, something as simple as a conversation that allows the bias and the ego to go take a break, and we can show up with our humanity.
Yeah. Nothing but the truth to spread. Right. But it's so hard, and there's an obstacle with that in America, because I see it in the news all the time, and even on social media, especially Facebook. A couple of days ago, there was a mother that was complaining about the fact that their kids were being taught African history, and I was just like, man, why wouldn't you want your kids to learn African history? Why wouldn't you want them to know, what else happened, like in the world, that not just impact African Americans or Africans, but impact the world.
Right.
The world. Like, this is the world. So you want to deny your kids information about them. And I think we do that too. We do that. These lessons that were passed from, generations, or the story, what actually happened.
Yeah.
I feel like they got buried with some of the griots in that time.
Yes.
They got buried. We don't have griots anymore. We don't have that. And I yearn from that, especially like in my family. I yearn to understand, what happened with my lineage, but it got buried with the griots.
Yeah. That's so key what you said. And we don't have the storytellers anymore. It's
you
very,
gotta pay for it. Am I lying?
Oh, no.
You got to pay for it. Ancestry.com, right? Sorry.
No. Shout out to no, but yeah, it's something that is really important, and I believe that I know that as I'm still digesting the stuff from High on the Hog, because there's a lot more that I'm just like, whoa. I remember I was watching with my parents, actually. Shout out to my mom if you're watching. and dad. And I looked at them and I was like, why didn't you teach me this? And they were like, we didn't know it to teach it to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And I have even told you in private that I was like, it started with our people. And it's not something that, you know, while you're working on, especially if you're in the DEI space, it's not something that comes up on the, not something that comes up on that slide.
Yeah. I just, when you said that again, it's like, I was trying to put myself in the place of the people, right? And the people that did it, right? Let's say if those were our uncles, right? Those were our uncles. We were back in that time. I don't think, like, in good conscience, I could look at you and say, hey, my family was part of, you know, the suffering that's going along. I don't think that. I believe that I have integrity. I work on my integrity. I believe, you know, I believe that I'm full of integrity, but that's just so painful that I would let that go with me. I don't think I could tell you, hey, Sharice, my people was part of that. So that just made me think about now, right? Maybe that's why it skipped, because I just feel this sadness right now, just thinking with that piece that's missing and a piece that I don't know, what if my people was a part of that?
You know, it reminds me of a scene from Black Panther when he found out that his father and uncle had did some dirt. And he's like, you were wrong. You were all wrong. Yeah. And now we have a nation we have a world that is suffering off of things that we're not. And you just hit something really powerful. It's so much easier. It's easier to blame others.
Yeah,
so much easier.
Yeah, I could look out look out and say, right now in my neighborhood, man, their grass is really brown, right? I could say that easily, but then guess what's in my backyard? You know what I'm saying? Some brown freaking grass, because I'm watering the front more, but I'm not going to tell you, hey, I got brown grass.
Right. And I do know there's also another documentary. I want to do this I have some really close friends. I want to do it with them. It's called In Our Grandmother's Gardens. And it's about these growing up with the grandmothers and the stories and the things. And I wonder, you know, as we go through this healing process, because it's going to take time, it's probably going to do us a lot more better if we can figure out a way to balance what we're seeing in the world, because the world is going to keep happening. It's not going to stop for us to start healing.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out when we want to start that healing process, because if we continue to create more divide with Black, white, this, that, like, it's never going to work. And that kind of goes back to something we talked about a couple of weeks ago, or like a few weeks ago, or like a month ago. Is racism profitable? You know, and we have to look at it from both sides, because all of humanity has participated.
Yeah.
And to exclusively call out one and get the scale out is just ridiculous.
You might as well get it out for everybody to get on it.
Everybody get on the scale.
Because we're all implicit.
And who's going to determine that hurt outweighed this hurt, or this was that? You know, oppression is oppression. And I haven't even dropped this yet, but we're gonna wrap up on this. I'm coming out with an article. I'm not gonna say the name of it, but there's this line in it. It talks about companies that have made, like, we're anti-racist company. And we're, you know, and you already know how I feel about the word anti-racism. I'm not going to get into it, but essentially racism is oppressive. Yes. You agree?
Oh yeah. 100%.
So you have these companies
it's oppressive
out here
for the oppressed and the oppressor.
But both ways. I mean, the vibration doesn't, it's there.
Yeah.
So one of the things is, since racism is oppressive, and you have companies that are trying to or claiming to be anti-racist while they are still operating in oppressive states within their workplace.
Yeah.
People scared to speak up, not treated properly. That's oppression as well.
It is.
So kind of like that grass analogy, you have these companies that are throwing these things out there for performative reasons, or maybe don't know what they're doing, but yet they can't even create safe spaces within their own company. Their people are feeling oppressed.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's cute to put stuff like Black Lives Matter on your website. It's cute to do that, but you know, how about doing the hard work? You know, getting out there and making sure that they know that their lives matter, and their lives matter because they're appreciated at work. They're given fair and equitable assignments at work. They're getting promoted because of their merit, right?
Yeah.
How about doing that? Like for me, you know, if I still work for a company, for me, you can have that. I'm cool without the decal, but you know, give me the liberties, and you know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about.
What did your wife think about that episode?
It was a very especially, you know, towards the end, you know, she thought that it was sad. I can feel, you know, the sadness in her, and we were talking you know, about, especially, you know, towards the end when he was, you know, basically walking over where the ancestors were buried. And I remember her just saying, oh my God, I can imagine what, you know, the feeling that he is feeling. And that's another reason. It was almost like for her, she was getting a lot of emotions from him as well. And that was the same thing for me. I was drawing a lot of those same feelings. Like, man, if I went back there, that's probably the question that I would ask. It's like he's asking everything that we really want to know. And he's like kind of pushy about it, which I thought was dope, because it's almost like when I'm talking to my grandmother, I'll ask my grandma questions, and it's just like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, grandma, I let me know. Tell me, like, what's the deal? Like, what, you know, in the 50s, what was your stance on this? Like, I really want to know. Tell me what you went through. And I got to push. And that's what I felt like he was doing. He was pushing so that he can get the information, and they were giving it to him. So I think we felt this. She kind of went through the same way, you know, the highs, the lows, you know, the oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And it was definitely a learning experience for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good series. I love how the education is balanced. And if people are really looking to, and I think film has such a beautiful way of teaching us through emotion. And so, you know, for those that are looking to really expand and hear balanced history, especially as stuff is being taught in the workplace around bias and where stuff started and racism and things like that, documentaries like this, In Our Grandmother's Gardens, The Amendment, learning the history. Don't just get it through somebody. Go through that experience and learn it for yourself. Do some research. Find out how many countries can actually fit in Africa.
Yeah.
Right? Go do this for yourself, because if you're getting third-party nutrition, you're not going to be able to grow.
Ooh, I love that. Third-party nutrition. Sorry,
that was good. I mean, in the world of instant tweets and automation, we've become lazy with our humanity. We don't talk to the, you know, I've worked on building a great community in our neighborhood. Some people that come and visit are like, I live in the city. I don't even know my neighbor. I don't even know. And I'm like, that's half of why we're going through what we're going through.
Yeah.
So I encourage everyone to watch High on the Hog. We're going to continue this series here in the High Vibe Zone. And before we end, I want to just turn it over to you, Tony. Final words. I'm going to throw up how people can get in contact with you. Always a pleasure just hanging out with you in the high vibe zone. So what say you as we head out?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody have a good week and watch that series. It is amazing. I'm not just saying that because we're talking about it, but it's definitely something that's impacting my life and is taken from another understanding, and is something positive to put in your toolbox. And I want to say thank you for having me on. I really look forward to this. This is definitely having these conversations with you every month is definitely the highlight of the year for me. So I want to tell you thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you so much for being with us in the High Vibe Zone, LinkedIn Live, and on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead, because I love the intro so much, I'm going to just go ahead and play it on the outro as we end out. So thank you all for watching and being with us today in the High Vibe Zone. If you have not watched High on the Hog on Netflix, I just encourage you to go watch it. That first episode. If you are looking forward to following this series with us in the High Vibe Zone, go ahead and watch 2, 3, and 4. We'll be posting up on LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much, Tony, for being here. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the outro. Hold on.
You proud of that outro?
I
am too. I think it's dope.
I gotta get used to doing this. So, all right, light, love, and gratitude, y'all. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You are a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout to amplify and transcend, slay the ego, raise the humanity. That's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone.